All right, welcome back on this first Monday of September. Wonder where we'll be by the end of the month. Hell, by the end of the week. September 2nd. Stopping by to exchange some information, share things. The ever more amazing Gary Holland, who is one of the most well-informed people I've ever run into in this business. Gary, welcome back.
Good evening, Jeff. How's it going this evening?
It's fun. Fun as ever.
No, yeah, that is. So many problems around the world that you kind of lose track sometimes.
You can't track it all. You need a computer to track it. Unfortunately, the computer lies to you. So, did you hear the last story I did about DARPA?
No, I didn't get a chance to.
All right, I forgive me out there. I got to bring Gary up to speed. I'll do this real quick. I got this story. It's from RT. When they say they're going to do something, they've already done it. We know that, all right? The Pentagon has unveiled an initiative to fight what it calls, now this is DARPA, when they say it's DARPA, to fight large-scale automated disinformation attacks, end quote, by unearthing deep fakes and other polarizing content, with the eventual goal of DARPA rooting out so-called malicious intent from the Internet entirely. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, is seeking software capable of churning through a test set of 500,000 news stories, photos, and audio-video clips to target and neutralize potentially viral information before it gets a chance to go viral. In DARPA jargon, the aim is to, quote, automatically detect, attribute, and characterize falsified multimodal media to defend against large-scale automated disinformation attacks, end quote. Polarizing viral content, however, includes inflammatory truths from time to time, and the program's ultimate goal seems to be to stamp out that and all dissent. You can count on it. That's what they're doing. They're throwing it in our face. DARPA is going to clean up what's left of independent thought and reality on the Internet that Google and the others haven't already removed. And when they say they're looking for a way to test 500,000, give me a break. They've got this technology, the AI, everything. It's all in the bag. They're already doing it. They're just announcing things as they occasionally do. So there you go. There's the latest.
Yeah, I've read that. Actually, I didn't want to interrupt you when you were talking. Yeah, I had actually read that. Not the RT article, but there was another publication that had put out a similar article about DARPA and the Pentagon going to war against what they call fake news.
Yes.
See, so what they want to turn it back to, they had DARPA, Pentagon, DOD had massive control when there was only 3 anchors on 3 broadcast channels only.
Yep.
They totally ran them guys. Walter Cronkite.
Wait, let me say one thing. What did they boast about? In the 1950s, the intelligence boys and girls boasted, and this is in Operation Northwoods, that they can control and have any story they wanted put in any newspaper, any major newspaper in America, and television program news within the hour if they wanted it. That's how much control they had in the 50s. Go ahead.
And that's what they want again. See, so, for instance, when they say inflammatory truths, okay, Pentagon bombs a city, wipes out 10,000. It was all terrorists. But in reality, every other news story confirms that it was just villagers of people, innocent, not harming anybody. And they got themselves blasted off. What they want to do is the only story they want you to see is that 10,000 terrorists were bombed. not 10,000 innocent men, women, and children. See, that's the type of propaganda they want to put out. So when they're talking about inflammatory truths, that's the type of inflammatory against them. See, what they should have put out a press release was anything that DOD can't control and can't propagandize and doesn't like will be completely wiped off computers, and anywhere on the internet will just scrub it right off immediately. The only thing you're allowed to listen, read, and hear and watch is the propaganda we put out 24/7 through Northcom. That's who we want you to believe, and believe only us. And you see how they write. By the way, the propagandists, that reporters that write these articles, a lot of these articles, by the way, not in RT, but mainly in domestic, within the continental United States. These reporters, these propagandists, which they all 99% of them are propagandists in any mainstream state-run media. They basically they write these articles to make it look like DARPA and DOD is doing it for your benefit. It's to help you. It's to protect you. See, that's what they believe. That's what they want you to believe. But unfortunately, again, Jeff, like I've said on numerous programs, it's a numbers game right now. Population, intelligent, researched, informed population is dwindling in numbers. The amount of dumbed down, hat on backwards, toss the football, eat another junk food meal with beers and wash it down with beers. That right now we're at a numbers game at this point, and we're being outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Actually, that's too small. 100,000 to 1, probably. We're being outnumbered by dumb people. I mean, just uninformed, willfully ignorant people.
Good expression.
We're being outnumbered.
Say it again. Willfully ignorant. And that's the truth.
Yes. And so when you present information on your program nightly, right? You try to then go out and you have listeners who should still do this, by the way. I never discourage anybody from, confronting people and trying to inform people. But a lot of times when a listener of the program will go out and talk to a stranger, say at a Starbucks or wherever they go to, they get the eyes glazed over look, and 1 minute later they're saying, well, I don't get involved in politics. Hey, what do you think about the quarterback this year? That's what you get. That's the type of people you run into like 99.9% of the time. And statistically, if you're not running into informed people, that's worrisome. Because if you go out just anywhere in the public, anywhere on the street, go out day-to-day life, go do day-to-day activities. How many people do you think you could run into in a Walmart? It doesn't matter, the store, a Walmart, a fast food restaurant, department store, whatever. How many informed people do you think you'll run into in any of them places? I'll say zero. That's my answer. Because I don't run into anybody. Yeah. And the ones that are scariest, by the way, are the ones who say, I'm informed. And how they're informed? Well, I go on MSNBC.com. I go on WallStreetJournal.com. I'm a New York Times reader. And they will argue with you and say, I am a well-informed person when they're going to them type of stuff. Or Fox News. I listen to Fox News. I get the truth. Only from Fox News will tell you the truth. I hear so many people saying that, too, all the time. And it's laughter.
Bad.
I laugh, but then I'm crying inside. To be honest with you, it is like that. You're crying inside because as these people are dragging our country into third, fifth world status, you're being dragged with them. See, that's the problem. See, the problem I have is if I wasn't going to be dragged down, I'd say, well, you know what? You want to be willfully ignorant. You want to be, purposefully stupid. If you want to do that, that's fine. You want to be dragged down and to the endless pit of despair and depression and living basically with your boot on your throat. Go ahead. But unfortunately, me, my children, my grandchildren, my family, people, and your family and listeners of the program, they get dragged down with it. That's the problem. That's the problem, and that is the reason why I try to keep doing what I do, because yes, it could be discouraging sometimes, the dumb people, but I keep trying because I know if I allow them to drag the country down, I'm talking general day-to-day people that just are willfully ignorant, then I'll be dragged down with them. So I will do everything I can. At least while I'm being dragged down with them, I could say to myself, I did everything I could do. That's all you could. That's the only thing you can do.
Well said.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's shameful. It's just shameful what's going on in this country. What you just see it's just, I don't know how to explain it. It's like people are docile, they're compliant, they're obedient. They're like, I guess maybe like a pet. And I don't like to compare anyone to a pet because animals are honorable and they do things because that's their instinct and that's the way they are. I don't know. The only thing I would compare them to is like a potted plant. That's why you can only compare people like that who are just willfully ignorant. I mean,
right.
Some of these people out there are just scary. I mean, they're beyond scary. I mean, it's a dangerous. It's scary to the point now, but it's a danger now. This is an actual danger to the fabric and the future of this country. Is the citizens who are so dumb and so naive and so gullible, and put all the title, give all the terms you want for these people. But they're killing this country. They don't care about their next future, the future generations. They don't have any care for that. They're like, well, I don't care. I'm going to blow all my money. I'll be dead before this country goes, to hell in a handbasket. And that's the attitude you hear from a lot of people, and that's shameful. Yeah. That's disgusting. I don't know why people can think that way and feel good about themselves. I don't get the logic.
I really do think that they have been programmed to do just that. It's not an accident. They didn't just find that stance on their own. It's been put in. It's been impregnated in them. It's an art. We're in such control now. People wouldn't understand. They wouldn't believe it. Oh my! It's
like an unintentional death wish.
You wouldn't be listening. It's an unintentional death wish. Yeah. I mean, I've seen people just put up with garbage, and they think that it's just fine. They have no pride. They have no self-worth. They've been damaged or otherwise. It's really grim.
Anyhow, in the public indoctrination systems, you have the children growing, especially the Gen Z, Gen Millennial, and Gen after the Z, whatever that's going to be. They're being indoctrinated to, like I said on previous programs, you have the whites who are indoctrinated to hate themselves. You have the minorities indoctrinated that they can't accomplish anything in life. And the reason why they can't accomplish anything in life is because you have the whites who are putting you down. So you have two groups you're indoctrinating in a school: self-loathing and a defeatist. So you have the minorities who are being taught to be defeatist, and you have the whites who are being taught to hate themselves and be loathing and self-loathing, and to basically self-impose a second-class status on themselves. And that's what you have coming out of public indoctrination centers. Unfortunately, I would say, I don't know what the last estimate was, I would say 90 to 95% of the population of this country sends their children to indoctrination centers. So you have a numbers problem in this country again. Everything's about a numbers game. It really is a numbers game. And when if you're one person and you're trying to fight 30 people, you're going to get a beat down. If it's one-on-one, you have a chance. But if you have 30 people against one, you're going to get a beat down. That's what's going to happen to you. Well, right now, as you're trying to inform people, you stay informed, you're trying to warn people. We're basically at this point in the beat downs. We're the ones getting beat down, basically. That's what's going on here. Because you have too many numbers of stupid people who literally will literally want to fight with you, even, by the way. Even though they know that there's something wrong, but they don't want to hear it. They get so angry. And then they revert back to tribalism. You're either a racist or you're not a patriot. If you're not a patriot, if you're not for bombing, the Middle East into the next dimension, then you're
Right.
not a patriot. If you disagree with, the last 8 years of a disaster of a presidency, we already know the current presidency is completely liar and a backstabber and, just a globalist, tool, which what he is. But the last 8 years, if you said anything wrong, if anything, you say, well, that ain't, Obama's this and that. And if you say, well, that ain't true, this is what he really is, and you show them data, it doesn't matter. You're racist. You don't like him because he's black. That's always what saying that, and I would always correct them, of course. I said, well, he's half white and half black. I said, so I wouldn't consider him black.
Which half do you hate?
Yeah. So, but that's what you get. See, so you're labeled, or you're attacked. See, they've conditioned people really well too, by the way, to do that. So if it goes outside your small little box, which is your little bubble, and then all of a sudden they're uncomfortable, most people have been programmed to be taking orders and just learn whatever you're told on whatever news organization, that's what you believe, and do not think anything beyond what you're being told. So when you challenge that and you try to tell them there's a whole world outside your little myopic bubble that you're in, they tend to literally turn to violence. Because see, they're like a computer, what do you call it? Like a mode or a computer, like a off site computer that's hooked into a mainframe, right? So these people are terminals, and once they're only sent basic programming from the mainframe, which is the indoctrination government, whatever you want to call it. When you challenge and go outside of that programming, then they revert back to a default program, which is violence, which is, by the way, why you have police attacking citizens all the time. Because they're like a computer terminal. They're like part of the Borg, right? And they're just one of these, NPC type characters, where they're non-player characters. There's really nothing about them. They're just an apparatchik of the government. So they attack a person when you challenge them and you go outside their programming. Once a police officer, once you challenge his programming, and once they go through their programming and you're beyond their programming capabilities, then they revert back to default program, which is get violent, shoot you, beat you down, arrest you for no reason, make things up,
sure,
that type of
thing. Lie, and lie again.
Yep. Because they're only programmed to do certain commands. Once you go out that command and you go beyond and you challenge their command, they don't have anything beyond that. They're not programmed for that. They're programmed for just shout orders.
Very smart, many of them.
Yep.
Not all. No. There's some very smart police officers, men and women, but the rank and
they're
file.
The ones usually weeded out, though.
They don't want to hire people who score over 100, just about 100 in the IQ test. They want bots. They want robots. They want automatons. Yes. They want order followers. They want people capable of violence is what they want.
Yep. And so if you're pulled over and you say, what was your legal reason for this? Is an incident that just recently happened?
Why am I being pulled over, officer? What did I do wrong? What's the legal reason for what? You're taking your life in your own hands right there. They could shoot you, and there's a throwaway gun, of course.
You're told now on the main state-run media, if a police officer pulls you over, he's had a really hard day, you shouldn't challenge him, you should just take the ticket with a smile, he's just there doing his job, he's a dangerous job, his life is always at risk, which is true. I mean, at certain times, in certain cities, in certain areas.
But nobody forced him to become a cop, right? Goes with the turf.
One of his main reasons, you were told, supposedly, I know in the olden days, and this is the olden days being 30 years ago even, the police were peace officers. That was what they were called. They were there to keep the peace. Peace officers. They used to drive by and say, a citizen's in trouble. Now what do you get? Law enforcement. He enforces the law. He's an enforcer. And who are you? A perp or an unsub or a civilian. You're not citizen anymore. See, when you take that power away, people say, well, it's just words. It's not just words. When you take the peace officer title, he's there to serve the citizen. When you attach that to a police force, the citizens are the ones who are the bosses, rightfully so, because that's who they are. They are the police's ultimate boss, is the citizen of that community they work in, that they collect a check from the tax base from. Now it's the opposite. It's the other way around. You are to be obedient. You're to obey, not question, and literally believe every single thing that this automaton is barking at you. Because there's been numerous videos where you've seen people begging to, what do you want me to do, sir? What do you want me to do, officer? What do you want? And they still get shot and killed. And they keep these people on the police force.
I've seen it. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Here's another one for you. When I was a kid and we'd see a police car, there was still a feeling of good. That's good. He's here to help. He's a good man, there to protect us, to serve us. Now when you see a cop car, I'll defy almost anyone to say they feel, uh-oh, what have I done wrong? Are the lights going to go on? They fear law enforcement. It has gone 180 degrees. What does that mean? That means you're living in a police state when you fear to protect and serve officers. Think about it. Be right back with Gary Holland in just a few minutes. Hold on. Okay, and back with Gary Holland. No news. Oh, I've seen a little bit here and there. Gary has. No news about Ebola, right? It's gone away. Don't worry. Be happy. Pay no attention here. Move right along, ladies and gentlemen. No news. Well, there was a story today. Said the new official death toll in the Democratic Republic of the Congo from Ebola is 2,000 people. Well, Gary, how accurate is that 2,000?
Not even close, because if you remember months ago, they were close to the 2,000 number.
Yes.
It's already got into, I think, that one major city. It's over 1 million. It's been it's been in that city for quite a while. They just announced it. See, just like DARPA, when they announce anything regarding Ebola, it's completely tampered down. And so if they're saying 2,000, you times that probably by 10. I would say easily by 10 or more. Could be 20,000.
They don't know.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people living in the DRC, and they don't know how many are dead.
And they're involved in a major civil war. So again, a lot of these areas where the Ebola outbreak has happened in DRC, they're all in areas that are involved in civil tribal warfare. Right. And there's no way to do an accurate count. Doctors Without Borders is gone from there. There's another organization they pulled out. They just can't risk their people anymore. You know how many people live in DRC? They had no one to volunteer anymore.
You know how many people live there? Over 82 million people. It's running rampant there. We're supposed to believe that 2,000 have died. 82 million people. And
there's at least 20 to 100,000 per day going through different borders of different countries. Uganda, you had Rwanda. There's the other country of the Congo, right? There's Uganda. There's all the sub-Saharan, and the equatorial areas of Africa. So there's at least, I'd say altogether, you're talking at least almost 1 million a day going back and forth.
Yeah. Here's what borders DRC. Tanzania, Zambia, Angola, Gabon, and I can't see the other one. There's another one. But it's surrounded. I guess Rwanda.
Yeah, it is Rwanda. And then go one country after that, even, because let's do kind of like a circumference, right? So we go one country out, the border country, then one country after that.
How's this? Uganda, South Sudan, Central African Republic, and the Republic of the Congo, not the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Republic of the Congo, Angola, Zambia, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, countries all over the place around the DRC.
With a collective IQ of 20.
Well, the average is, by science, measures it right in the low 60s, so you figure it out. That's on a good day.
If they're averaging the low 60s, let's just say round off 60. That's the average, by the way. So that means there's a good size of that population with the IQ below 60.
Well, down 50, 40, who knows? Yeah. So there you go.
And I would say the average, and that's being, by the way, that average IQ 60 or the low 60s in most of these countries, you already know they're being skewed by the UN. So we'll handicap that 10 points.
Fair enough.
So actually, it's probably around 50 because they heavily tease them numbers. By the way, they do.
You bet.
They tease.
But this is not.
A lot.
Don't think this is being racist. This is being scientifically accurate. We're trying to paint a picture of how a people with 60 average IQ and no international medical support to speak of now are supposed to handle something as sophisticated and deadly as Ebola. It ain't going to happen. So,
this will tell people, this won't be I'm not being considered racist. We're just talking reality and science and mathematics. But okay, the future me and the future version of Jeff Rense and the future version of Gary Holland in 100 years will be talking about the American citizen, like we are talking right now about the sub-Saharan African citizen.
Right.
That's the truth. So then, what are you going to say then? Because that's what we'll be talking. In 100 years from now, the U.S. collective IQ will be around 60. AI just basically will be AI slaves, whoever's left. Maybe they need people to maintain.
Well, you heard the story about DARPA. This is just the first step in dumbing down people really into oblivion. Then they're going to mix them genetically, crossbreeding, inbreeding, whatever, so they have this gray goo population, which is what they want. And here's another thing. These people not you folks, but people actually think that the controllers care about people's lives. They don't care about our lives one whit. It means nothing to them to kill. They'll kill as many people as they want. You got an example about this, Gary?
Yep. Just to make it a point. Here's a good example. Look at 9/11. They wiped out 3,000 and then millions. They liquidated millions overseas afterwards in their phony wars. Right. Anyone who believes, by the way, that, and look, people get mad at what I'm about to say. I'm just going to give people, unless you have very, very, very good evidence to say it was crisis actors, please stop. You can present that information all you want, but let me tell you what you're doing. The people you're talking about,
we're talking about the El Paso shooting, and there are some people online who continue to say, nobody died.
Yeah, that same old thing. Look, you Las Vegas massacre, El Paso, Dayton. Look, the list goes on and on and on. But let me explain what you're doing subconsciously. When you say the powers that be, the psychopaths that are running this world, will use crisis actors to create something to further an agenda, you are by subconsciously telling the mass of people who are listening to you that the powers that be in this world have compassion, that they would use only crisis actors and wouldn't really hurt people. Let me tell you something. Rather than using crisis actors and having to pay them off the rest of their lives into their retirement homes or whatever, they'll just go out and kill people. It's cheaper. I'm sorry to say, but that's the way they think. They don't care about people. Are a number to them. They're not human. The mistake we always make, a lot of people, is you look at something as, well, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that. You cannot think that way. These people don't think the way me and you do. They don't have compassion. They have their reptile side of their brain is what runs their emotions, which is zero. They will do whatever they have to do to push an agenda. And if they have to go in and wipe out a whole Walmart, they'll do it. If they have to go knock down more buildings in a city, they'll do it. They don't care. And it doesn't, to them, like I said, it's called collateral damage to them. That's the only way they look at it. It's a numbers game to them. It's like in a restaurant. You have, at the end of the night, they call it food waste, right? So you have a certain, like, you work wherever restaurant, and then you have a food waste that you chart every night. To them, you're the food waste. You're just something to waste. You're just something that could be expelled off the planet, could be thrown away. You're like a garbage to them. So when people, it makes me cringe when I hear people say, well, crisis actors. You're basically saying that, well, the ones who are using these crisis actors are very compassionate people who don't really like to kill people, that's why they would use an actor to do this and waste all that time and energy and spend all that money to further an agenda by using fake everything. Well, they don't look at it that way. For them, it's just cheaper just to prove a point by just wiping out half a city block if they have to. They don't care. And I just hope people get this in their heads. They need to focus. They're sending automatons in there who have been brainwashed, who've probably been cultured and been involved in MK Ultra type programming for a lot of years. They've been groomed. It wouldn't be out of the realm of reality if they have some of these kids who are 20, 21 years old, 19 years old doing shoot 'em ups, that they didn't start grooming them kids at a very, very early age. They do. That's what they do. That's why in schools, what is one of the number one positions in a high school? The school psychologist. They don't have psychologists in schools to make your children have a better mind and have well-being of the mind and to help them. They're there as a representative of the CIA and the U.S. government. That's who they're representing as a school psychologist. They're there for psychological programming. They're not there to help your child's well-being whatsoever. That's in the indoctrination centers. Every single one of them has a school psychologist and sometimes in some schools, assistant school psychologist. And you go there and they program your children. And in some schools, they make it mandatory to go see every 6 months or twice a year in the school year to see the school psychologist.
Yeah.
Who would send their children to a school that has a school psychologist? That's insanity. Why would you do this? That's nothing to do with learning. That has everything to do with programming. And if your children have psychological issues...
They're trying to turn your kid into a snitch, of course.
Oh, to snitch and to be a condition and everything else. But let me explain something. If you need to send your children, if you're sending your children to school and they have a mental health issue or they're having some type of mental problems, would you want some government hack, most likely on an H-1B visa, foreigner who got a foreign waiver from some psychological crackerjack and they hire them as a token, minority? Obviously, they have to do this in public schools. They have their quotas, so they have to fill their quotas. And that's the type of psychologist you would want your child to go see? Why would you have someone like that in there? And why would you let your children even talk to them? If you have children having mental health issues, it's between you and yourself. And if you need a psychologist, or a lot of Christians use pastors or religious figures, whatever, it's between the parent and the child and whoever they choose their child to go to. It's not for an indoctrination system to have a psychologist sitting there in a school so they can program your children to hate themselves. They know what they're doing, and they have them there for a purpose, and it's not to help your children. And it's just, you see these things going on. And you tell people, and if you tell someone about this, they'll look at you strange, tear up in their eyes, and walk away and turn on the sports. That's what they do. I've had it personally happen to me before, where I've talked to somebody about something, they literally don't have nothing to say. They just, I don't know. They shrug their shoulders and click, TV on, the ball game's on. And then you see them get into this kind of like this vegetative state where it's like pure ecstasy to them to watch a balls being tossed back and forth on the basketball court or whatever is on game. If you look in people's faces sometimes who are watching a game on TV.
Home. Lights are on.
There's nobody home. They're in this weird vegetative state of ecstasy. I just don't know how to explain it. They're like this. They're zombied out.
No, they're drugged out. They're drugged out. Is what they are. They're getting some kind of, I don't know what word it would be that would use. They're getting some kind of a drug. It's like an endorphin thing. They're vicariously being athletic. I think it actually triggers the release of some endorphins like runners get. They're getting it vicariously.
And like any drug, when you overuse it, your body builds a resistance to it, and you need more.
Got to watch Mo sports all the time.
Yep. And then sometimes they get up and they're screaming and they're punching in the air and they're going, yeah, 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 and they're high-fiving. They just scored. My team just scored. If it was your team, how come you don't get tickets? How come they don't give you a discount on the merchandise they sell? How come the city, like the state of Nevada, gave $740 million now to the Raiders, right? The Raiders get to keep all the profits. The city gets none of the profits, none of the profit sharing whatsoever.
Wait. Slow down and go back and do that again. The Raiders what?
The Raiders are going to keep all the concession sales. They're keeping the parking. They get the parking.
The city doesn't even get a 10% cut. Nothing for building the stadium.
They get nothing. The only thing they got to guarantee the Raiders get here. That's what they wanted. They said, well, they always use the same excuse when they build all these stadiums in all these cities. Well, it's the residuals that we get. It's the new jobs created, the new businesses, and down, in the area wherever the stadium is. They only play 8 games a year. That's all they play.
8 days out of 365 days a year. Think about it. 357 days, nothing goes on in that place. Maybe rock concerts, I don't know. They you know where they blew it, and I've said this before. I've said this before. That statement by all rights of common sense should have been dual purpose for Major League Baseball. It's asinine it wasn't. I understand the politics behind it. You've explained it to me. But Las Vegas needs Major League Baseball.
Yeah, well, they just built a new stadium up in Summerlin for the minor league team.
Yeah.
And that minor league team's been drawing a sellout. So, and I think there's 10,000 or 11,000. Yeah. And that stadium sells out all the time. Major League Baseball would work here. Again, though, like I said, but what is the city going to give up next time? They already gave so much to the Raiders.
They're going to give another stadium up. Is what they'll do. Major League Baseball stadium.
Yep.
That's right.
See, the Raiders refused to. The Raiders knew what they were doing. See, they made it look like, well, up in Oakland at the Coliseum, they didn't like having the A's because it ruined the field. But what also they had to do with Oakland Coliseum was share the concessions with the Oakland A's. Parking profits from the parking. They had to share with the Oakland A's. Everything got shared. Here, they have their own stadium, paid for by somebody else. They're keeping all the concessions, even keeping the concessions, some of the concession sales during the UNLV college football games. The Raiders are getting a piece of that action. It has nothing to do with the Raiders even. And they're still taking a piece. See, that's what you call, it's basically, it's quid pro quo. It's like they're having the Raiders come here. They're using taxpayers' money, and they even took out bonds and took out loans. The state basically signed for loans for the Raiders to build a stadium. What does that have to do with the Raiders? Why would they issue bonds, borrow money to build a stadium, and let the team keep all the profits of it? It's completely ridiculous.
Are they going to do rock concerts in there?
Tax department there's like some private company that's going to run the stadium. That private company is partly owned, I guess, by not Al Davis's son. I forgot his first name, and so he's going to be involved in this company. So during the off season, you're going to have concerts. I want to say the National Finals Rodeo is also going to be moved over to the stadium. So, and that's actually will draw more people than the Raiders will, by the way. The National Finals Rodeo draws a ton of people. It's a whole week, and you should see the people. They crowd in the town here. So if they move that to the stadium, which would be the smartest thing they've ever done, instead of playing in the T-Mobile Arena or Thomas and Mack, they're going to have a stadium. and they could fit 60,000 people in, and they will fill it for the rodeo. They will.
When are the Raiders supposed to begin to play there? What season?
Next year.
Not this year.
2020. No, this is the last year they're in Oakland, which is, I'm shocked they renewed the lease for a year. Kind of surprising because I don't. Well, see, Raiders have a regional following, so they'll always be able to sell tickets. So, they're going to stay there that one last year. Then they're building some huge, again, Henderson, the city of Henderson, where the practice facilities for the Raiders are going to be. They gave up an arm and a leg for the Raiders to move their practice facility to the city of Henderson. I mean, they just gave away everything. Just a big giveaway. Giving away other things, promising, taking loans and bonds out. See, that's not only the $740 million for the stadium. The city of Henderson gave up a ton for the practice facilities. They just had to shift a huge chunk of money about a year ago on road projects. They shifted it from areas of the city and the valley that needed work done, and they shifted it for the Raiders, so the Raiders could have wider roads getting to the stadium. And in other words, there's other roads, main thoroughfares and main big roads here that need a lot of repairs, and they get put off now because they need to widen the road so everyone can get to the game. See, that's what their priority is. Priority ain't the citizen. The priority is the game and to keep people, engaged in the game, and this way you don't know what's going on around you.
Well,
here's a great movie, Jeff.
They need it. Huh? Go ahead.
There's a great movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger that came out in the late 80s. It's called The Running Man. And if you see that movie, and this was in the late 80s, you look at how the society I'm talking about is acting in that movie, you could compare a lot of it to the people of today. A dumbed-down population, a game, that's all they were concerned about. TV was just about watching games. And the words that they, even down to the terms and the words you're allowed to use, that's what they put in that movie. If anyone who's seen that movie, it has Richard Dawson in it, and other actors, Jesse Ventura. There's other actors too that Carl Weathers. It's a really great movie, but
it's worth buying.
It's worth looking at. Yeah, and see how, not about the big plot of the movie is the actual game itself, but if you see, I always like to look at the secondary part of the story where it is like the background of the story of a movie, like a type of movie like that. I want to see how they're portraying the society of that time in that movie. And the society, the way that movie is close to what it is now here. It's so scary on some of the things that are similar to the way people are acting now. I mean, and a lot of this is predictive programming. Obviously, it's what a lot of movies are. It's self-fulfilling prophecy. That's what they want for you.
That's exactly right.
But if our society today is we're at the edge of the cliff, and there's nothing left. At the cliff. We're at the end of the line, and we are in some deep, deep trouble. And I just pray and hope that more people will start opening their eyes and to look beyond what they're being programmed to look at. That's really what my hope is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good. All right, Gary, thanks for stopping by as always. Talk to you soon.
I appreciate the opportunity, Jeff, and you have a great evening.
All right, thank you. Okay, that's our first program of this new month of September. September 3rd tomorrow. Let's see. David Duke tomorrow night. George Filer. Brother Nathaniel tomorrow night. Piled up all through the week already. Okay, talk to you tomorrow. Take care.